In life, there are moments that are critical to forward progress. Join executive coach and corporate trainer Scott Sadler as he learns about the seemingly small pivots successful people make in life and leadership that lead to big results. And now here's your Pivot Moment host, Scott Sadler.
Welcome to Pivot Moment. I'm here today with my friend and longtime friend, Kimberly Wood. We actually went to high school together, but we reconnected later through business. And Kimberly works for Perlo Construction, where she is the Director of Corporate Risk Management. Is that still your title?
It is.
Okay, good. Just want to check. I'm pulling this off of LinkedIn, so I want to make sure that was correct. And there, she's in charge of risk management, HR, and a variety of other things as a partner in the organization. So welcome, Kimberly, and we're looking forward to hearing about your pivot moments in your life today through personal life and business life. So welcome to the studio.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. On this beautiful sunny day, you're taking time out to be on my show. I'm grateful for you being here. So, this show is all about those seemingly sometimes small decisions that you look back on that had such great impact. I talked to some of my clients about when they're creating change, you can pull the slingshot back a little bit and only go a little way, or you can really pull that slingshot way back and go a lot farther. And having worked with Kimberly for a few years, I know that she was an ideal client, actually. And I know, Kimberly, I've told you this, but she really leaned in. She went way back in the slingshot. And I actually have goosebumps because it was so cool to see you lean into the desire you had to pivot is what it was. You wanted to make a shift. And folks, she reached out to me. No one called me about her. She didn't, I didn't reach out and say, hey, you could use a coach. She was looking for some help in areas of her life, and she made that happen. So I'd like her to kind of walk you through, Kimberly, if you'd walk through that scenario, what led up to that moment, and then what was the outcome of that moment, and then we'll talk about other pivot moments that kind of came from that before and after.
Yeah, for sure. We did grow up together, so you remember me as a young kid. Probably I would, if I had to describe myself, would say that I'm pretty results oriented. I'm head down, push through. I'm
sorry, folks, but I'm giggling because she says pretty results oriented. She's extremely driven. Yeah, pretty much.
And I think that some of what goes with that is a lack of understanding of how your desire to get where you want to be affects other people. And I think I've struggled with that my entire life, not realizing how my inner dialogue to myself seemed very ordinary. It's been my dialogue my entire life. And that if I had the same kind of dialogue with somebody else who didn't have that inner monologue, that I might offend people. And I always struggled with not understanding why that was occurring. But I certainly did in my career. I've hurt people's feelings and just kind of been befuddled about it, tried to figure out how to correct it, how to figure out how to be different. Ultimately, I had a situation, I'll just be really, really frank. I had a situation at work where I lost it with somebody and was pretty shaken that I had gotten so upset with somebody in the professional environment. And so that's why I reached out to you, Scott, was to say, okay, look, I can't figure this out on my own. And I need to invest some time and money, and with a professional who can help me kind of figure out how do I fix the problem, which I didn't know what the problem was. You helped me figure that out. But just how do I talk to people in a better manner? And ended up learning I had to talk to myself in a better manner. That's where it started. And so that was the journey that we started on together.
Yeah. And I was making a note here because when you say be different, that's not being who you are, right? Because you're trying to find that balance. Kimberly has a huge heart and cares deeply. That caring just wasn't always showing up
yes.
in the way you wanted it to. So you really weren't trying to change who you were, right? You were trying to because your voice needs to be heard too. You need to you have a right to be seen and be heard for who you are. You're just trying to change the way you communicated to feed that part of you that wanted your heartfelt presence to be on the forend, right? Instead of bulldozing and leaving a wake of emotional distress behind you, which you were trying to change, has to occur without losing yourself. Wouldn't you agree?
I think so, definitely. I think that's exactly what had to happen. Is people couldn't see the good side, all the, like you said, I do have a big heart. I would do anything for anybody, but I think that was getting lost because of some of the emotional damage, like you said, that was being left in my wake, and so unfortunately, people, they remembered that. They didn't remember the nice things that I would do, or the nice things I might say, that those were being overshadowed by some of the hurtful ways that I communicated. So yeah, I don't think I look now, I'm now, what I think that was maybe 3 years ago that we started down that track.
Yeah.
I'm in a much different spot today than I was then. And I think I'm still me. I just grew into a better me. I grew into a me that now communicates on a much better level. And, I'm still making amends for some of the hurt feelings. And I think that's just going to occur for a while. People, but as you continue to show that you're consistently communicating in a different way, I think that eventually will solve itself. So, I think you're right. I do have to still be me. I can't be somebody else to make other people happy. I still have to be me, but I can do that I can still be me and communicate better.
Yeah. Well, and what we're talking about here, folks, is self-awareness. And those of you who know me, I'm always about the baseline of self-awareness. If you could become more self-aware, and it doesn't matter how you become more self-aware. I'm a big mindfulness guy and teach mindfulness to my clients. And I think that mindfulness is awareness. And that's why I call it mindful self-awareness. So tell me the part of your process what did you do to create that self-awareness aside from reflection with your coach, but I'm talking about your own work here. What did you do to create that self-awareness?
I think I read a really good book that helped for me, and that was The Four Agreements. Yeah. That book was sort of the light bulb going on. I think the reality for me is, I think if I'd have read that at a different time in my life, it wouldn't have had the same impact, but I was ready to hear what it had to say. And that was really helpful for me to start my journey. And I think you and I started it. I think I've come a long way since you and I worked together. But it's a matter of really just looking to see. I had to just become so much more self-reflective about conversations that I had, and more aware of the responses of people. So I think if I'm honest, I think when I started down this road, I don't think I saw the people that I work with as people. I saw them as functions to get done what we had to get done in a business. But I don't think I looked at them and really probably treated them as individuals. And that was one of the big changes, was stopping. It's funny. This morning, I spent the first half hour of my day, I actually walked around and talked to everybody.
There you go.
We've been gone apart from each other for quite some time now, several months. We're just now back in the office, split shifts. And I, instead of sitting down and turning on my computer, I thought, okay, I actually want to know who's here. I want to say hi. I haven't seen their faces. I want to do that. It was really nice. And I realized that, that's something that I hope to continue to do a couple times a week. Maybe if I can get it 5 days, that's great. But that really made a difference in how I approached my day to day, was a better, happier start to my day. But I connected with everybody, and it wasn't about work. I didn't say, what are you working on? It was, how have you been? How's your family? And I think, had this COVID happened back before you and I started working, I would never have thought to do that. So I think for me, it's a daily, I don't have to think about it as much today as I used to. Thankfully, it's more habit, I think, or second nature than it used to be. But really reaching out and trying to get to know people, getting to know the staff that I have working for me on a personal level, and then others that don't necessarily work under me that are on my team, but that we work with. It's so much of a difference. Like, I'm now talking to my team about the fact that we're here to support the rest of this company. They're not here to give us information to get our jobs done. We are here to be on their team to help them be successful. And I keep relaying that to my team, because that, if we can get that message across to the rest, then they'll look at us as though we're part of the team, not it's risk management who always has some reason why we can't do something or we shouldn't do something. They're always, they make things more difficult, which I think is to some degree, true. That is the nature of risk management, is you're managing a risk. But we can do that a different way. And I think that's the discussions that I'm having now with the people in our office to make sure that they understand, look, we're taking this a different way. It isn't me and my team. It's us, our team. And I talk about my employees differently. I don't say my employees. I talk about them now as my team members. I try not to say my employees. I try not to use those terms because we're all the same. We're in this together and we've got a task to do together. I think before that would never have been the way that I thought about it. So I just think I've worked really hard at kind of changing how I view the people that I work with, not just that I work with, but in life in general.
Yeah.
And really trying to understand from other people's perspective. And I think I was really impersonal, and I've now become personal.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. I think that's probably the best way to describe my transition.
Yeah, it does make a lot of sense. And you said so much rich content right there. I want to go back a little bit. The Four Agreements is a book that I generally ask every one of my clients to read. It's just got that foundational. It helps you see people as people and not objects. And it also helps you create boundaries for yourself if you feel like you're being an object in other people's minds, right? And Kimberly, I'm going to put you on the spot. What are the Four Agreements?
Oh, no. You did do that to me.
Okay, I'll give you the first one, to be impeccable with your word.
You probably have to give me all four. It's been so long. And I'm looking, do I have a copy? I don't have a copy on my shelf. I bought so many copies, and other people, I left them for my teammates to use. And they've now disappeared. So
that's a good thing. That's a good thing.
Oh, I in my heart, I should know these.
Well, at one point, Kimberly, I'm going to throw Kimberly on the spot again. At one point, she was going to get this tattoo. So apparently you haven't gotten that tattoo done yet.
I did not have a needle. I talk tough. Chicken.
All right. So now you have a goal after this podcast. So it's the Four Agreements are: be impeccable with your word.
Yes.
Don't take anything personally.
Right.
Which was a big one. That's a big one. Yeah. Don't make assumptions, because we always tell a story, right? And there's great pivot points that could come out of not making assumptions. And then always do your best. Yeah. And I have those on my desk.
Yeah, I should have them up. You'd think I have other things now on my desk to try to remind me of things. Mine is do those things that are hard and make you uncomfortable. It will improve your ability to handle obstacles, get comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Wow, that's just pivot.
Yeah, so that's my current reminder.
I like it.
But this be true to yourself is absolutely correct. Don't make assumptions was such a big one. We do that in our lives when people don't give us all the facts that we need. We fill them in, and unfortunately, as humans, we tend to fill them in with bad stories. We don't fill them in with good reasons why. When something happened and we go, why did that person do that to us? We tend to assume negative reasons why. Well, they're not nice, they're mean, they're hateful, whatever it is. Mm-hmm. We don't go, gosh, maybe they're having a really bad day. Maybe their dog got ran over last night. We don't attribute all the reasons why people that are absolutely unrelated to us may have responded in a particular way. So that one was a really big, important one for me. The first one, tell me again, say it again, because I never remember the words exactly the way they are.
Be impeccable with your word.
Impeccable with your word. That one was that one, if you haven't read the book, that one you have to read because it's more than what you think it is. And so, I learned so much about how to view myself. So being impeccable with your word has to do not only with what you say to somebody else, but how you talk to yourself. And that one probably was the most impactful for me because what Scott helped me understand is I had exceedingly negative dialogue in my head. So I would use terms like, well, you messed that up. You screwed that up. You idiot, you could have done better. I really used very negative terminology to myself in my head. And so it was very normal for me to hear that. And so I might say to somebody, why did you do it that way? Why did you screw that? That's all screwed up. Why did you do that? Not realizing in my mind, I heard that all the time. So I thought that was okay to say to others. And it wasn't until I realized that really I shouldn't be talking to myself that way.
Yeah.
I realized that of course you shouldn't talk to others either. But for me, the hard part was I actually did talk to myself that way. So that was a big learning curve for me. And I really had to work hard to not talk that way. In fact, I had to put notes on my mirror in the morning for when I got up that would tell me, you're going to have a great day today, and you're an amazing person. Because I am. It's hard to admit that, right? And we all are. Everybody's an amazing person. You're unique, and you have such unique qualities that are amazing. We just have to look hard enough to find them. Sometimes we're looking at all the negatives and not paying attention to the amazing that we do. But everybody has the potential to be amazing and is amazing. We just have to acknowledge that piece instead of zeroing in on the pieces that we're critical about. So, I had notes on my mirrors to kind of help me get past some of the negative talk. And it's interesting. I don't think about that anymore. I think occasionally when I find myself using those kinds of language, it's where I feel threatened. Yeah. So when I have a situation where I feel as though my safety or security is threatened, I tend to then revert back to some of that conversations, and I have to pull myself out of it and remind myself that that I am amazing and that I have a tremendous amount to offer this world, and to focus on that and not the mistakes that we all make, right? We're human. That's what we do.
Yeah.
We make mistakes, and hopefully we learn from them. So I think that the first agreement was the strongest for me.
Yeah. Well, and Robin Rose, my partner, and Sadler Rose calls it creating new tracks in the snow. You've created these new ways of thinking, these new connections in your brain. And we're not talking about positive thinking, folks. This is not slapping something on a mirror and reciting affirmations just for the sake of affirmations. This is the work behind the positivity, because the change doesn't happen with just positivity. You have to learn it, change your life, and live it. And, I didn't mention this at the beginning, but Kimberly has a BS in sociology from Willamette University, and she also has a law degree from Willamette University Law School. As you speak about people having their journeys, there's subsets of that, right? So, you're a woman in a high-level executive position. How many pivot points did you have along the way with those challenges? And you don't have to go into great detail about this, Kimberly, of course, but I'm sure there were times where you were told you weren't good enough and you were never going to be. And she's in the construction industry at a high-level organization that does big projects. What was that like from your perspective?
It's interesting. There's so much there that from what you just said.
Right. That's another hour-long podcast, probably.
That's running through my head. Here's what I would say is, I had a fairly easy time in school. That was never a difficult task for me. And when I got out of school, I decided it was smart to get married. It's at the ripe old age of, I think I was 19. and after that didn't work out. Mm-hmm. I had a son with my ex-husband, and as a single parent, was now struggling to find my way as a single woman in the work environment. And I went to work for the Department of Justice. And through working there, I realized that I think I should probably be an attorney. I think I could probably do what the attorneys that I worked with were doing, and thought I should just go to law school. So I just decided to do it. And I didn't do that the traditional way. I was a non-traditional student, undergrad and law school. My son and I actually started our first years of school together.
That's cool.
He started kindergarten when I started undergrad, and we did the first 7 years together. And so I worked full-time. Well, not full-time. I worked part-time while I went to school full-time and raised a kid by myself. I was single during that time frame. And, I get asked, how did you do that? And the reality is I really couldn't answer you. I don't know. I just wanted to do it. And so that was what I was going to do. And I'd say anybody that, when you look at that, it might sound overwhelming, but if you've just made up your mind to do it, you can do it. And so I'd say to, other women who are maybe past the stage of, hey, I wasn't, 18 years old and went to college, don't let that stop you. I went, I want to say that I was 28, maybe 27 or 28 when I started undergrad. So I went late and I did it, and I did it with a kid. So it's possible to do. I didn't, I just prioritized things. It was a crazy life. And I did that. And when I got out, I got interested in contracts. I got hired by a construction company to do contracts, and just decided to go that route. I liked the idea. It was, a regular job as opposed to putting in 80 hours a week as a young baby attorney. I went to work for a construction company and did all of I did pretty much everything that was in the legal realm. I did their HR, I did their risk management, contracts, insurance, pretty much anything that came that route. And I went to work for a company that at times was challenging, but was in the end fantastic. I worked with them for 10 years and loved the experience, got involved with the Associated General Contractors, and noticed that there weren't very many women in AGC. But I had some interests in workers' comp law. I had interest in laws that were affecting our business. And so I stuck with it at AGC, even though it was to me very much a man's world. But I was there to learn. I didn't really care if they didn't like me. I was going to do what I had to do. And I think, for the majority of my career, Scott, if I'm honest, and I think this is not a positive, by the way, I was only looking out for myself. I was going to get where I wanted to be no matter what. And I didn't really care what anybody else thought. I was just going to do what I wanted. And I think the determination was good. I think that, I wish I could go back, and I wish I knew today what I know back then, because I think my life, I have no idea where I would be today. Like I think I would be in a much different role. I think I would be much farther in my career. Not that I'm complaining. I think I'm doing pretty good. But I think I didn't have enough. I was focused on what I needed, and as opposed to focusing on what we need, right? Whoever the we is. So, I think that there have been pivotal moments. I think, I struggled here at Perlo, and I think, what I thought initially was other people's issues turned out to be not mine. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And as I've grown and gotten, thankfully, I work for an employer who wanted to invest in me. So they invested so could have you as a coach. I worked with Robin Rose, like you said. I have another coach right now. And I have learned something different and grown more with each coach because they have different points of view and different things to help me. I think I'm so lucky that happened. And when I reached out to you initially, that was my investment, and it was the best investment I think I've ever made in my life, because I invested in myself, and I invested in the right the right person was me, and with the right person, you, to to really change my perspective on life and truly to make me a happier person. At the end of the day, I was doing all of this to sort of fix a problem. But it turned out that I was really just on a personal journey and really have just become such a more happy individual all around because of the growth, right?
Yeah. And I talk often with clients and on this show that where you are is where you are. It's no longer appropriate or even acceptable in my world to try to be something at work and be something different outside of work. And the boomer generation grew up doing that, and it was the way it is, but that doesn't have to be the way it is. So Kimberly's done a masterful job of weaving this into her entire life, not just her role with her staff or her colleagues. And you can do the same thing. And, I'd encourage all of you to give this podcast a couple listens, because Kimberly's given some great points. She's very raw and authentic with her experience. And I think that her organization overall has benefited. Other people have changed because of Kimberly's change and the coaching skills she's invested in herself. And that's exciting too. Those are pivots you're providing for other people, because when they see someone pivot in a way that Kimberly did from this negative, it's about me kind of approach, and why aren't you doing it the way I want? Once that change occurs, people say, how did that happen? And tell me more, which is why when she provides resources like the 4 agreements, they fly off her shelf, because she's respected and they respect the journey that she's on from that pivot. I want to thank Kimberly for being here today. Another great session with an amazing leader who has embraced the pivots in her life. And I want to remind everybody to pivot forward, pivot backward, pivot sideways. Just make those pivots, keep changing, keep growing. And I'm looking forward to seeing you all again on the next Pivot Moment podcast. Thank you, Kimberly, for being here today.
Thank you for having me. I appreciated it.